This is Miss Coleman. Today we are going to be working on a narrative writing task. You have read the text Drawing Horses with Miss Kayla Brown earlier in a different session. Today we are going to work on that same text, except we aren't going to answer questions. We are going to do a writing task together. So the first thing I want to go over is what is narrative writing. It's been a while since we've done this, so I want to refresh your memory. Let's go over this. So in narrative writing, we first want to establish a situation. There has to be some sort of plot, some conflict, something going on to make it a story. You introduce your narrator, your setting, your characters. You use narrative techniques such as dialogue, a conversation between two people, description, giving vivid details and imagery about where it's at and what's going on. And then also pacing, making sure it's in the beginning, middle, and end format like a story should be. Use transition words and phrases, and also provide an introduction and conclusion to your writing. So now that we have gone over that, we are going to dive in, and the first thing I want to do is go over the prompt. Remember, the prompt is the question that they're asking you to write about. The prompt is the meat of it. What are we going to be writing about? So when we dive into a prompt, there are several sentences in a prompt. And we want to get to the meat of the prompt. So I'm going to teach you how to get to the meat. Imagine it like a hamburger, and you've got the buns, and you've got all this yummy stuff inside, like lettuce and tomatoes and ketchup and whatnot. But the meat is the most important part, and that's what we're going to get to today. So if you will look on the screen right here with me where my cursor is, it says, "You have read Drawing Horses by Sorrell Williams." Now, we have not read this yet. You read it in a previous session, and we are going to read it in just a few minutes, but we still want to decode the prompt first, just like we decode questions first when we're doing test prep items. Describe how Marissa's confidence develops and grows from the beginning to the end of the story. Be sure to use specific examples and details from the story in your essay. Your writing will be scored based on the development of ideas, writing organization, grammar, and mechanics. Okay, so what I want to do, I want to talk to you about this prompt. Anytime you have a prompt, your first sentence, I'm going to highlight it here, it's always going to tell you what you've been reading, okay? I'm just going to highlight it a random color here. So it's going to tell you what you've been reading. You've read Drawing Horses by Sorrell Williams, okay? It's always going to start with that. Your last sentence is always going to say how it will be scored or assessed. Your writing will be scored based on the development of ideas, writing organization, grammar, and mechanics. Okay, so we've got our first and our last sentence figured out. We know what it's going to be every time. The sentence right before your last sentence is your text evidence sentence. It's going to tell you, make sure you provide details, be sure to use specific examples and details from the story in your essay. You are always going to have to do that. You have to go back to the essay when answering the question. And then we have the meat. Here is our meat. Describe how Marissa's confidence develops, okay, and grows from the beginning to the end of the story. So I have the meat here highlighted in purple. So what we want to do, this is a sentence right now. You see a period at the end. It's not asking you a question. So by the time you get to 6th grade, your prompts are not going to ask you questions. You have to learn how to turn it into a question in order to answer. So I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to go here to my whiteboard. Hopefully you all can see. Okay. So describe, and you can still see the screen as well. Describe how Marissa's confidence develops and grows from the beginning to the end of the story. So how can we turn that into a question? Instead of saying describe how, we can go and we can just say how does Marissa's confidence develop and grow from the beginning to the end of the story? And then we can put our question mark, because now we have turned it into a question. How does Marissa's confidence develop and grow? Instead of saying describe how, all you did was turn it into a question. So now we have it turned into a question. Now we know what we're looking for. We know our purpose for reading. We want to know how this character changes. What goes on in this character's life? How does this character feel? How does she react to situations? It goes back to the RL 6.3 standard of characterization and how the character changes and evolves over time. So let's go to our text, Drawing Horses, and we're going to look, we're going to see actually how she does change, and then we're going to get started writing. And if we run out of time, I might either try to do a part 2 video, or I will at least try to get the introduction with you and then put you on your own for the rest of it. Here we go. I'd give anything to draw horses the way Euphemia Tucker does. She draws them in the margins of spelling tests and on the back of her math homework. They're always running wild and free, their manes swirling over the paper like clouds across the sky. Notice we have swirling over the paper like clouds across the sky. We've got a simile there. And what is that saying? Is that saying that her writing was terrible, or was it great? Obviously, if it's swirling over the sky like is swirling over the paper like clouds across the sky, then it's going to be beautiful. It's gorgeous drawing. Euphemia's horses look so real, you can almost feel their breath on your face. Wow, that's a great description, right? Those are the types of descriptions you need to use in your own writing as well. Paragraph 3, Luke Anderson, who sits next to me, says he can't decide whether my horses look more like Great Danes or kitchen tables. So what does that say about her drawing? If you can't really tell what it is, okay, it could be a dog or it could be a table, it's probably not so good. He also calls me messy. I prefer Marissa, which is my real name, to Missy, which is what everyone except Luke calls me. If I could draw like Euphemia, I would sign all my pictures Marissa. Nobody messes with Euphemia's name, not even Luke Anderson. So let's decide right now, how does she feel about her own writing? How does Marissa feel right now? Does she feel like she's good at it? Does she feel determined, or does she feel defeated? To me, she feels defeated. She says it's not good enough. People even call her messy. Luke Anderson makes fun of her, okay? So she's not feeling good about her writing right now. So we understand how she's feeling. Paragraph 4. Today, I sharpened my pencil and took a clean sheet of paper out of my desk. Then I closed my eyes and pictured one of Euphemia's perfect horses rearing up and pawing the air with its sharp hooves. I could see it so clearly I was sure I'd be able to draw it this time. So she says, I could see it so clearly I was sure I'd be able to draw it this time. Does that show that she is determined? I believe it does. She says, I'm sure I can do it. She's trying to believe in herself, okay? I started with what I do best, a big billowing mane. Next, I roughed in most of the body and drew a long tail streaming out behind. It really wasn't turning out half bad until I got to the front legs pawing the air part, which looked more like 2 macaroni noodles with a tiny marshmallows for hooves. I tried again, but the hooves still didn't seem right, and rather than doing them over and over, I erased them and went on to the head. That was when I really ran into trouble. First, I drew some donkey ears, followed by sheep ears, pig ears, kangaroo ears, everything except horse ears. I erased again and again until I had rubbed a hole in the paper. That was when Luke Anderson poked his nose over my shoulder. I scratched a big X through my earless macaroni-legged horse, wadded it up in a little ball, and stuffed it under the lid of my desk. So how do you think she feels now? She scratched a big X around it. She balled it up and just stuffed it under her desk. I would say, instead of determined, she is now feeling what we call defeated, okay? She says, I can't do this, just forget it. She's giving up, okay? I was still upset when I got off the bus this afternoon. I walked past the neighbors' horses standing in the field next to our house. They've been in that field for as long as I can remember. Their stringy manes never float into the sky. Their ragged old tails hang straight down to the ground, and I've never seen them run. I brooded about it all through dinner. What does that mean? I brooded about it. She just kept on and on talking about it. She couldn't get over it. After I had helped clear the dishes, I sat down with a stack of typing paper and a freshly sharpened pencil. Without Luke Anderson there to pester me, I'd hoped I'd have better luck. I practiced a few horses' heads, trying to get the 35 ears right. Nothing worked. I tossed all the sketches into the trash and walked outside. The sun had just sunk below the horizon, feathering the whole sky with pink and orange wisps. Everything looked special in that light, even the scraggly horses next door. I dragged a lawn chair over to the fence and sat down to take a better look at them. They'd even be free spirits like Euphemia's horses, but they did seem patient and strong. I noticed the curves of their muscles, the shadows on their faces. Look at this description. The shine along their backs. Their colors reminded me of dessert, rich chocolate, deep cinnamon, creamy caramel. You can actually picture that. That's visualization. I was just sitting there, feeling kind of dazzled by my unexpected beauty of it all, when I remembered the big box of pastels my grandmother had sent. An idea began to take shape in my mind, and just then the cinnamon horse turned its head toward me and nodded 3 times. It was like a sign. I hurried into the house, grabbed my pastels and some paper, and raced for the door. I chose a deep brown, pulling it across my paper in the shape of the chocolate horse. It comes out right this time, even the legs and ears. Drawing horses is easier when they're right in front of you, and I'll say this for the ones next door. They hold their poses. The sky is turning out just as I'd hoped to. All the pinks and reds blending together like strawberry parfait. There's you another simile there. And I love the way the caramel horse's mane is blowing just barely in the wind. It doesn't look exactly like one of Euphemia's horses, of course, but I already know that when this drawing is finished, I'll be signing it Marissa. So we see right here at the end that she is finally starting to believe, because she said she would sign it with her name when it was right. So now she's finally realizing, hey, I can do this. And the horses gave her inspiration. So I need you to remember, when you start writing this, we want to start with tag, okay? The title, the author, and the genre in our first sentence. So we want to start by saying, in the text, drawing horses. Okay. Marissa. And you can literally take the prompt and turn it into your introduction sentence. Marissa develops and grows from the beginning to the end of the story. Use your prompt to make your introduction. That is the best way to make it. Add your title, your author, and your genre. So it would be a fiction text. And then your author is also going to be in your prompt. And you've already have your title. So you put exactly what's in the prompt and you turn it into a statement. We're going to stop there, and I'm going to allow you to go on after your introduction. You want to make sure you have all your narrative techniques that we talked about. If you have any questions, be sure to contact me, acoleman@pcsd.ms. I'm available anytime, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you.